So you saw me wipe back with the chamois, and now I'm going to go in here and turn this female figure into a male figure. And watch how simple this happens, and how little difference there is, and how much of a difference the little differences make. How strange. Tiny differences, big changes. So now we're coming up for the pectoralis. Just above the xiphoid process, it's that little notch between the arc in our ribs, and you'll feel that with your finger. Just run your finger down the sternum, which is the hard part, in the middle of your chest between the pectoralis, and you'll come to a point where now it's soft, and that's your abdominals. Now, simple to complex, I'm going to start putting in nice curves to this clavicle. In real life, the clavicle looks like a gnarly blade, but it looks very curved to us because of all the muscles that are attached to it. And if I'm going to have a chance to do more curve, I'm going to do it. But there's nothing wrong with doing a really sharp edge blade type of clavicle either. You see it a lot in atelier schools where they're thinking about the anatomy a lot. I really strongly believe in learning anatomy. That's why I've named this the anatomy of style, but the main thing is style. Anatomy alone just looks to me like academic drawings. And they're beautiful, some of them. But for me, the beauty is not in a perfectly anatomical drawing. It's in the stylization of it. And all my favorite artists have stylized the anatomy. And so I'm learning the anatomy as much as possible and then stylizing every line of it. Well, that brachioradialis muscle all the way down the outside of the arm there, for instance, a beautiful curve, swells at the top, comes almost straight on the connection to the wrist, where it's a flat edge. And I like to take it down as a big gestural moment. Same here, I'm connecting basically the zygomatic arch of the cheekbone all the way down to the zygomatic muscles that attach to the lip, for instance, and then carrying that down as a line, which we often see as a shadow. So it's not a bone shape, it's a mixture of anatomy and style and connections to other parts of the anatomy. The sternocleidomastoid, for instance, attaches to the back of the head, comes all the way to the front. So a lot of these muscles are coming from further back than you think, and they create these beautiful stylistic moments all around the body. So I'm putting in something that's more common to see on a male figure, which is the serratus muscles, and they're often confused as ribs. So I put them in first because they go upwards. The ribs come downwards in the same kind of rhythm, but slightly different. And that's one of the big common errors I see, where a beginner artist doesn't know what they are, make them all ribs, and then you end up with these gigantically long ribs with no muscle attaching to the back, which is what the serratus are doing. They're attaching around to the back, the inside of the scapula, which is our shoulder blades at the back. So you've seen I brought the hips up higher. That's another major change on the male figure. See how odd it looks now, with just a fraction of a change on the outside of the arms and shoulders to give us a much bulkier character. And this is a very strong man that I'm drawing. Here's a great connection point. Now, this is the corner of the body, really, and it's where the obliques, which are the side muscles, attach to the iliac crest and below that as well. And so we see the connection on the iliac crest mostly. And it's also a border between the obliques, the side muscles, and the abdominal muscles. So there's a ledge in there. But it's the corner of the body is the main thing. So the 10th rib, which we see at the front of the rib cage, it's a landmark, attaches down onto these muscles via a group that goes all the way to the 5th rib, which is the obliques. But we're drawing an invisible line there to show that they line up with the crest of the hip as the corner. And there's the tensor fasciae latae, which is a muscle that comes off. Almost think of it like a pocket in your trousers to get the direction of it. And that's also coming off the iliac crest to show us the corner. So we're seeing the side of the leg from the front. That's very important to know. We're not just seeing all front of leg here. You actually see through to the back in some ways. And you can see that I'm tilting forward. Those obliques are coming down to attach right onto that pubic bone. And all along the side of that crest too. Everything's terminating basically on the crest of the hip and the pubic bone before we get to the legs, except for the psoas and iliacus muscles, which we very rarely see, but sometimes they appear. And one of my favorite models, Alana, you'll see actually a little puff there. And it used to flummox me. I couldn't quite work out what was going on. A little double bump. We'll see it as we draw her. So, what are the main points here? What makes male and female? Well, look at these big calves. You rarely see a woman with calves like that, but a man can really build those things. And look how wide and high they are. Look to the left for the female figure, and look how long the calf is. Major difference in the male and female figure, that long calf and the shorter calf, the male figure. And the bones are basically thicker on the male figure. So I'm just basically thickening up the kneecap and the patellar ligaments that go around those bones, or the swell of them. And look at the difference. What a huge difference we're seeing in the silhouette there. Once again, you can get an androgynous man, an androgynous woman. I've also added a little line there on the female figure on the left to show the abdominal ridge. So it's not confused with that belt line that I drew earlier. It just faded back a little bit and was confusing to see. So I'll put it back in there as a diagram. So it's an important thing. We've got to make sure we don't make an error there. Now, on the male figure, we get a very long line coming down. It's the inguinal ligament, and we tend to see the inguinal ligament on the inside of the hips, once again attached to the pubic bone. And also the bottom of the genitals on the man are in line, basically, with the gluteus on the back. It can be lower on an older man, or higher on a younger man. So our bodies change as we get older, and that's one of the big changes. But that's a generic, once again, ballpark measurement. And with the female figure, we can see right through to the back. So we'll often see the gluteus from the front on the female figure. And on the male figure, we'll see the genitals from the back. And same with the female figure too, depending on the pose. Okay, so the shoulders, big change in the shoulders. And basically the shoulder muscles, the deltoids, they're the king muscles. They are on top of everything in the hierarchy of things. And they attach to 1/3 of the clavicle at the front. And the middle third is a gap. And it's the infraclavicular fossa. Then the pectoralis attached for the rest of the third of the clavicle.